record. Okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah. So I got to start on some open source stuff based on what Chris had already done, which so far has basically been taking what Chris did, rebasing on master, fixing a surprising number of conflicts. And I get Kubernetes open source moves fast. Anyways, and making some small changes along the way. And I wasn't entirely sure how to structure the PR. I initially was going to PR into the branch that is PR'd against K/K, but unfortunately that would show all the new commits to master. Like it just made for a really messy PR. So Chris, I know we talked a little bit about this on Slack, but I'm interested if you have a preference for how I structure that, like for where I target that PR. If I target it directly into your original branch, it's just going to have a huge number of changes, which I tried to avoid. But anyway, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if it's worth like just hard rebasing everyone up to.
Yeah, and I almost did that, but I didn't. Yeah, I guess I can get it. Now that I'm a collaborator on that repo, I could probably actually rebase that original branch, but I didn't want. But then basically rebasing that branch is not as straightforward as you would hope, and so you just basically that is the result of my new branch. It's a rebased old branch, but yeah. Anyway, and then the next thing was working on adding an Ingress path type. I don't know how serious, how much we want to get this into V 1.17, but if we do, one of the hard deadlines is we need to have a docs PR up.
So I was talking to Jordan and Liggett, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be 118.
Okay,
so
cool. All right.
At least that's the expectation that I think everyone should be operating under, because it's just, unless something like magical happens.
No, yeah, because I got pulled away by endpoint slice stuff today. So yeah, that sounds great.
So are you referring to the paths proposal in the KEP?
Yes. Well, mostly just in general, all of the changes. I don't think 117 is going to make sense. In fact, it would make the most sense is to get everything ready and all the basically discussions kind of concluded. And then 118, that would be a good time to also have implementers come in and pick it up as well. It's a little awkward because it's like this dance of you can't implement against the API because it's not there, but then it's not there, there's no implementation. So anyways, so maybe that actually timeline will work out to the better.
So ideally get it into master early in the 1.18
Exactly,
cycle,
so then people have time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, so beyond that, just some progress on Ingress path type and a work in progress PR. But beyond that, that's where I'm at, and just trying not to overlap with anyone else who might be working on things. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else is doing active development on this right now, but I'm trying to file PRs as soon to early as possible so that if there is a PR, it means I'm trying to work on it, basically.
So I think I heard like the thing we need to resolve is the branch. Chris, do you know what you would like to do there?
Yeah, I did notice on the default backend that there is a merge conflict listed on the PR now. So I'm guessing I need to solve that and then rebase on master, and then hopefully everything will be kind of set up until that point. And then
so
we can retry the rebase.
The branch I PR'd is basically the result of a rebase on master of your original branch, but doing a PR back into your original branch is just created this huge diff because it had everything from master plus plus the rebase changes. So maybe that's a starting point. I don't know. I just wasn't sure how to structure that, but I think the rebase is basically done. I just don't know. I mean, maybe you could look at the PR I have, make sure it looks similar to what you originally did, and then we can just merge, and then I can change the target to the bigger branch, to the original branch, and we can just move with that. I didn't want the diff to be absurd. That's all.
I think like probably since we're doing this fork thing, you should just, since we did it, we would just forward to whatever is now, and then just kind of ignore whatever changes in master, finish this one, and then do another session where we're all sitting here and just forward it to the new one. So there's Kubernetes master,
Yeah.
and then there's our stuff.
Yeah.
I'm saying that since you already did it to bring it up to date.
Yeah.
We'll just get everyone up to date. But then from now to the next up to date session, we'll just work independently.
Yeah, basically what my original idea was. I had a Ingress v1 branch that I created inside the Chris's fork of Kubernetes, and I was going to target that as what every PR should go into.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that there was already a PR that was targeted, but it was against an old branch, like it was an old branch that hadn't been rebased. And when I tried to rebase, I got all these conflicts, and the change ended up being bigger than I anticipated. And so, yeah, whatever. But my initial thought was, okay, you just have this one Ingress v1 branch, and you just PR into that, and that Ingress v1 branch is what PRs into k/k. But there's already something like that. It's just because it's a month or two old now, it just had fallen behind and got in some weird conflicts. But that's all.
Okay, so should we just reset it then, Chris?
By reset, you mean just rebase the existing PR that I have now?
Yeah, you basically just forward everyone to the current master, and then, assuming that's not broken some way, and then we'll just have like the 3 patches, and then from then on we don't redo it unless we're like all sitting here, and then we can do it all together.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to do.
Okay.
And if it does turn out to be a pain to rebase, that one PR I have is basically already a rebase. So hopefully, maybe a rebase is, I don't know. But anyways, that can be a reference if nothing else.
Okay, so who has the mutex? Literally.
I will leave it in Chris's hands. That's what I'll say. So there's a branch that's PR'd into your fork that is basically a rebase of your original branch, but I didn't want to merge it in because it's a rebase, and because there were some weird conflicts, I made some assumptions along the way. So it's mostly rebase with a couple changes. Yeah, so you can look at that, or you can just rebase. I don't really care, but I think just looking at that branch the diff is going to be really similar to what the changes you already made. And as I recall, it's actually like it's a co-authored commit. It's like basically your original commit plus my commit plus CodeGen. That's the gist of it. So
I see. So what is the concrete steps next? So Chris needs to.
So what I would say is, if Chris looks at this PR and it looks reasonable, like the diff he was intending, essentially, which is that first commit, the second commit is just CodeGen. If that looks reasonable, then like approve it, let me know, whatever, and I can change this PR to target the original branch. But whenever I change that target, it's going to be a huge diff because it has all the commits from master and whatever else. So
I see. Does it make more sense to just even just like format patch and then just git AM, reset to top, and then git AM just those patches down, and then fix it up that way? Because I know that like when you like git merge and you actually do merges, then you get this giant octopus.
Yeah, for sure. Merge is not,
So maybe it's worthwhile just agreeing on the name of the branch that we're all operating against.
Yeah.
and reset that to master, and everyone just floats patches, just like literally raw patches, and then just like put it back on top of there, and then we don't do another sync for a while.
That seems
We're
reasonable.
saying like go with a completely new branch based off the master, do any changes we need to do there, and then later on we'll figure out how to merge it back into that original branch that's behind.
Right. Basically, just treat whatever the small changes that we have done as cherry picks, and basically just pick them in to the new one. Because I imagine doing it like with the tool is going to become pretty hairy at some point.
Yeah.
Let's say so.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine with me. The only reason why I wanted to preserve like that branch that exists in the future is just to keep the comments and whatnot so people can follow along like why we did what we did.
Yeah, that's true. We could put it in the notes or something, just in the description, to link to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to do some archaeology.
Okay.
Okay, so Chris, you're gonna create the new branch. What do we call it?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
What are we calling it?
Because I have a branch that I intended for that purpose that's just Ingress V1 that's just directly based off of master right now. Well, now a day or two ago.
And that's in Chris's fork.
It's in Chris's fork,
okay.
So you just want to keep with that one for now?
Yeah, let's just keep with that one.
Okay.
And then, Chris, I think you should look at the difference between yours and that one. And if it's basically that one is a superset of yours, then we just add a forwarding link, like a URL to the new one, and then we can just kind of work off of that one.
Right.
So you created a branch and a PR.
Yeah, so basically what I did is I took Chris's original branch. He had a makeup that was one commit, one PR. One code gen, basically, like one actual changes, then code gen after. And I amended that original commit to be valid after rebase, and then I ran a new run of code gen. And that is what this PR is against that new branch.
I see.
That's
okay. Then let's just work off of this as the tip.
Okay.
Get this merged and then proceed from there.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I'll just, I think the rest of today I'm probably back on endpoint slice, but hopefully, we'll see. Hopefully sometime tomorrow, but certainly next week I should be back into this more full time. So, yeah.
Any other topics? This is a light one.
Yeah, since we have a bit of time, do you mind if I just ask a few questions about the path stuff?
Sure.
Maybe this is more like process things that's got discussed at previous meetings. It seems like from looking at the KEP, it sounds like there's sort of two simultaneous things. Firstly is graduating Ingress to like out of beta to GA, and the second is like a bunch of feature changes. Do the feature changes have to be in a beta and have implementation experience before they get nominated as a V1?
Yeah, so we had a discussion about that, and it seemed like people came down on the side that it's going to be disruptive either way, because what happened with the beta is that it just kind of languished and it wasn't very well defined. So for example, some of the path stuff is actually, so as it was currently specified, the path is somewhat wrong, because I don't think anyone actually implements what is written down in the API types.go. So mostly it was just to kind of fix those things. I think, Chris, you also, we had discussed this, whether or not to do another round of beta and then GA, or just to do GA.
So I guess my 2 cents is that it'd be pretty unfortunate to publish a GA spec that turns out to not be implementable, or to have
I
no,
see.
or that all the ingresses have no interest in implementing.
I see.
At least, so I'm working on Project Contour, and
I see.
Within our team, I don't think we've been tracking this very closely, so I'm not sure what our interest in implementation would be.
I see. Interesting. Would it help to have a beta in that regard?
That's a good question. I think probably our interest might be independent of whether it's beta or GA. Arguably, from that point of view, it might be preferable to go straight to GA, because if you go straight to GA, then you're more likely to have user demand for the feature, which would cause us to look at it more closely from an implementation point of view. On the other hand, when you go straight to GA and you find that, oh, it's not gonna work right, then you have to iterate once you're already GA'd, which also seems awkward.
Yeah, at least we tried to kick out as many things as possible. I think path is probably the biggest one, and then maybe the I think path would be the biggest change. Maybe the wildcard for hosts. But these are things that actually are somewhat existing behavior of various controllers that we're simply trying to just clean up.
Yeah, most controllers that I've seen have similar capabilities through various labels.
Yeah, so at least some of the controllers I know will be sort of implementing the GA thing. It is a good question as to what would be an exit criteria. Although we're hoping that most of the cleanups are actually somewhat, like they're actually cleanups, not new things.
Yeah, if you have, I guess if you have at least one controller sign up to implement it, then that's a great start.
What would be the, I guess, you guys currently, but I thought Contour had its own sort of config model.
Yeah, so we have a new one now. So we just did a 1.0 release, and we replaced the Ingress route CRD with a new one called HTTP proxy. So the delegation model that we had in Ingress route is changed to be an inclusion model. So you still have this tree of CRDs, but it's more modeled around higher nodes in the tree, kind of including lower nodes in the tree, much more like textual includes. So
Right.
It's kind of a slightly different approach that solves some of the problems that we found with the Ingress route model.
Yeah, I think in terms of implementers, we did have quite a few on the CAP itself. And then given it's a 118 timeline, we still have quite a bit of time to sort of finalize what specifically is going to go into the API. And I know through API review as well, it's going to probably result in some changes. But I think it would be useful if we sort of get this initial branch out there just to see if it passes the sniff test. Like if people can take that thing and then see what the actual delta would be to get everything onto conformance with the better clarified behavior.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Out of curiosity, what's your experience been with CRDs for Ingress? Has it been generally positive, or have there been frustrating parts of using CRDs?
You mean CRDs in general, or
Yeah, I mean, well,
Ingress CRD specifically?
Migration, right, as opposed to a native resource. Like, is there ever a point where you would say move from the custom Ingress route kind of spec to something that was in K/K or similar?
I think the general feeling in the team is that we think that HTTP proxy CRD is kind of a better overall model than the Ingress one. So it doesn't really help. I guess whether it's built in or a CRD is probably less important to that team, to the team than some CRD. The only thing I've noticed specifically is we've struggled to get kube control explain to work with the CRD.
Yes.
It's more an API machinery issue that seems like it's still like maybe a release off getting all the pieces in place for that. But I think kube control explain seems like a really good model for helping users come to terms with a custom CRD.
Yeah. Cool. It's helpful background.
Okay. Any other topics?
Just for the recording, in case anyone was watching later, I want to mention that for those that didn't understand what we're doing with the branch, so I guess that would be James on this call. The reason why we have to do it all with branches is we originally wanted a feature branch off of Kubernetes that would kind of track all these things and make it a little easier, since it would be a fork still, well, it would be a branch under the actual KK repository, but after discussions between the three of us and SIG architecture and SIG release, they said that it just doesn't really exist at the moment, a lot of the infrastructure necessary to make that happen. So we're kind of forced to use this external fork and then create one giant PR against the Kubernetes repository with work that we've already validated and tested ourselves, but it'll look like one giant PR with all the individual commits when we submit it to be merged into Kubernetes master. This is just so we don't have any half-baked work going into the 117 release, or whichever release. The whole API will be merged at once.
Yeah, like the biggest issue was that creating branches in the main repo is tantamount to getting super user. So they were a little concerned about that, because we'd like blow away the main branch or something.
Yeah, I guess when I've worked on similar sorts of features, I would have probably tried to put it behind a feature gate or something. Just had it make it present in master, but make sure that you have to do some sort of admin action to enable it.
Yeah, it's weird for beta and GA level things, but this was the recommendation. Okay, any other topics? All right, thanks everyone. I think we can continue.
Oh, sorry. The next meeting is like in half an hour, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
I guess we can hang out here until
just stay on the line for a while.
I'm just gonna drop and get some food.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.